guys, Dara here, and today I'm doing a book talk on The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Now let's start off by saying that I DNF'd this book. I DNF'd it hard. Now that you know that I DNF'd it, you know that meant I was not a fan of this book. I strongly disliked it. It was a very big disappointment. The thing with this book though is I've heard you either love it or you either hate it. There's nowhere in between. I had many problems with it. Character, story, writing, you name it. I was like, what the hell? Second worst book I've read in 2018. I'm not trying to bash on your love for this book. If you love this book, that's great for you. But I am entitled to my own opinions. You're entitled to your own opinion. And this is just a video of me saying why I hated this book. That in no way means that I say your opinion is wrong, because it's not. Your opinion matters and I value your opinion and I respect your opinion. And I hope you value and respect my opinion on why I hated this book as well. If you have plans to read this book, I'm not trying to discourage you from reading it. If you still want to read it after my book talk, go ahead. This book is about a girl named Jude, and she, her older sister, and her twin sister witness a fairy murdering her parents, and they are kidnapped. Don't let the synopsis fool you. These children were kidnapped and they were taken to fairy court where they were raised by this fairy. Since they're humans, they have to fight for their place in this world, whether it be by marrying someone or winning a battle. My thing with this book is that I really disliked the writing style. I mean, this is my first Holly Black book. I've read other stuff by Holly Black, but that's when she tried to do things for the Shadowhunter world with Cassandra Clare. Knowing Cassandra Clare, books and novellas were both written by them. So there's a novella by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black. So their writings were meshed together. So I never really got a chance to read something that was fully written by Holly Black. And so when I got to this, I was like, if she's anything like in the Shadowhunter writing world, maybe I'll like her. But this book, it just felt lazy writing to me. And I hated that I thought that, because sometimes I would love how she would write some things, but then I'd remember it's not the writing that I loved, it's the world building. And that's how things started to contradict each other. Yes, the writing I disliked. I felt like it was lazy writing, but it was contradicted because she really did put a lot of thought into the world building. The writing, it was just not my style. I hated it. I thought it was too simple, too plain. It's not the best kind of writing book that I love. It's not my type of book. The characters, they felt like automatons. I mean, I guess that's part of it. I mean, fairies are ferocious. They're meant to be savages. So I understood why Holly Black went in that direction with the fairies. At least the human characters, which was Jude and her twin sister, they just felt like weird. I don't want to be like bad at describing things, but I don't know how else to say it, but they didn't seem out of place because, I mean, they were raised in fairy court. They're part of the fairy court. But the characters were just horrible. I don't know. I felt like they were missing something. I didn't even understand the point of Jude having a twin sister. I honestly didn't. Like, what was the point? I feel like I said everything that I wanted to say that was non-spoilery. So now I'm gonna go into the spoilery section. So if you haven't read it, I suggest you go bye-bye. Unless you plan on never reading it and you want to be spoiled, then go ahead. I think you can notice it a little bit, but I think I'm getting sick. I tend to get very sick when the seasons change, so if you hear my voice cracking or my voice going away, that's just because my throat's not at its best right now. So let's start talking about why I strongly disliked The Cruel Prince. Let's go back to my previous statement where I say that the girls would kidnap. They were kidnapped after Murdoch stole us. Okay, stole us from the human world. He brought us to his estate in Innsmire, the Isle of Might, where the High King of Elfheim keeps his stronghold. What was weird is that she also says how she has loving feelings towards Murdoch, even though he kidnapped them. I'm no psychologist. I do not know the traits to Stockholm Syndrome, but she feels like without Murdoch, she wouldn't have survived. If Murdoch hadn't raised her or hadn't brought her to the fairy court, she would have been lost. She would have been dead. You don't know that because he kidnapped you. If you and your sister would have stayed in the human world, who's to say you guys wouldn't have been adopted? I mean, you guys were 7 years old. You guys could have found an aunt, a grandpa to go live with. And I'm sure if Modoc would have said something, if he would have tried to get you guys to your family instead of thinking you guys were his possession because his ex-wife had you. And that's just the other thing. Modoc felt entitled to Jude and her twin sister because he's like, my wife had you two. That means you two belong to me. And it's just like, that's not how it works. You are not entitled to these two little children that your wife had with another man. They are not yours. Why would you kill their parents in front of them too? Why would you traumatize them that much? And even though Jude says it, you know, she's like, he's the murderer, he killed my parents. Despite myself, despite what he'd done and what he was, I came to love him. I do love him. And that right there, my friends, I feel like is Stockholm Syndrome. And things just kept getting worse as I kept reading. Every single fairy child in that court, in that class, were bullies to Taryn and Jude. They were being bullied for being different. And I don't think I like that. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm reading between the lines. I mean, why would you push two innocent girls into a lake that is filled with whatever eels that bite and eat humans? Like, why would you throw them in there and just laugh and be like, haha, you guys aren't fairies, you won't be able to survive that? Dane goes up to Jude and he's like, has Modoc used you and your abilities? Because apparently fairies in this court cannot lie. They're tricksters, they engulf them in their wording, but they cannot lie. And Jude being a human, she can lie. So Dane's like, I want you as my spy because I know you can lie. I guess Jude's fear of being compelled comes from when her little brother, well, technically he's not her little brother, and it's not until the very end we find out that he's not even Vivi's little brother. Oak accidentally compelled Jude to do all these things she didn't want, and when he found out that he could compel her, he kept making her do weird and unnatural things, and Jude hated it and she thought it was a violation, and I for sure agree with her. That was a violation. She talks about when she first arrived at court and how the cook bit off her finger and ate it in front of her. So like I said, the court, the fairies and all the imps and all the creatures in that fairy court are bullies and they're mean. During the first few chapters, we don't know, at least for me, I didn't really realize who was going to be the love interest. I mean, we had Locke, we had Dane, and then we had Cardan. Cardan is the cruel prince, now that I know. And the thing behind that, I am not excusing it for 1 minute because nobody gives you the right to be that cruel, even if someone is cruel to you. Cardan is being abused by his older brother, Blaine or Balak, Blur, some weird ass name that starts with a B. Apparently, if he doesn't come up to his older brother's expectations, he gets whipped, he gets treated badly. Cardan wants his older brother to see that he can be as cruel and as mean as him, and so that's why we have that display at the party where he rips off the wings to that one fairy. And then we have Locke. Locke, who is the player who played both sisters, by the way. So the girl who was in love with Locke was actually Cardan's girlfriend. She left him for Locke, and then Locke left her for Jude's sister, but everybody thought it was Jude, so that's why they were mean to her, when in fact it was Taryn's fault. And then Taryn never did anything. She knew they were being cruel to her sister because of her, and she did nothing. And that just comes to show that Taryn was more interested in becoming part of the court than protecting her own sister, and I hated that as well. So then we get to the part where I DNF this book, and I think it was after the party at Locke's mansion. She is walking inside her house at Modoc's, where Jude is having that conversation with her sister about who her secret lover is, and I think she guesses Locke. And Taryn asks Jude, do you like Locke? And Jude is like, Locke? Yeah, else I wouldn't be with him. The romance between Locke and Jude was just the weirdest shit ever. That was very uncomfortable to read. And after that I was like, I can't continue. This is pissing me off, and this is just, it's horrible. I don't like it. After that I just couldn't continue. I was like, I can't do this. I cannot for the life of me continue reading this crap of a book. Even though I DNF'd it, I did skim through it, and I know how it ends. I know that Oak is actually Locke's little brother and is Dane's son, because Locke's mother was not only having an affair with Dane's and Cardan's father, but was having an affair with Dane himself. Vulcan wants to be king, but the rightful king is Dane's son, because when Dane was crowned as the king and was killed, his descendants would be the next in line, and everybody thought he had none. But Oak is, and I love how they orchestrated that whole show of teaching Oak on coronating Cardan, and then Cardan becoming accomplices with Jude to get Vulcan away from the crown and have Oak come back to be king. But the thing is, Cardan only agreed to it for a year and 1 day, and not a minute after. Again, trickster with the words. And so Jude's like, I have a year and 1 day to convince Cardan to continue being king and continue to save Oak's crown. And I for sure knew Modoc was gonna do something as shitty as that, as betraying his own friend. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this book. I mean, it's probably the shortest book talk I've ever done. But like I said, I DNF'd it. I know how it ends. I know what happens. But it's just, after all those things that I disliked, I just didn't want to continue. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more of my face. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!